You saw correctly in the thumbnail, Koreans are playing Everfrost Pike, and it's actually good. We've got that and much more to cover in today's video, as we have 10 new builds that are extremely powerful for patch 13.18. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video, or click the link in the description below. Eclipse and Duskblade had been by far the most optimal mythics for Jace prior to last patch, but with all the item changes, there's a new bruiser build on the rise. Gore Drinker is back and a really great rush item. Second item does not change, as you want to be picking up that mana immune. Third item is unique once again though, as you'll be slotting in Spear of Shojin. The Gore and Spear item combo is just way too OP to pass up on right now if your champion is able to abuse it. Jace, being a champ who benefits a ton from ability haste, is great with Shojin, while all the added health lets you play more like a bruiser. Since this build is more durable and allows you to stick into fights for longer, running Conqueror for the Keystone in place of Phase Rush is a great idea. The complete rune page is Conqueror with Presence of Mind, Alacrity, and Last Stand, followed by Magical Footwear and Biscuits for secondaries. A build that has been flying under the radar in recent patches that gets even stronger here in 13.18 is Stormrazor Quinn. Static Shiv has been the more popular rush on Quinn in recent patches, but with Shiv nerfed and Stormrazor buffed, priority on Storm will rise. You've got more upfront burst damage when rushing Stormrazor, which helps Quinn capitalize on those roams plays. If you build Gale Force second, the burst power and outplay potential becomes even greater and provides Quinn with a very nice 2-item spike. With the likes of Renekton, Aatrox, and Darius being heavily played in the current meta, it gives Quinn a ton of power right now, and she's definitely being slept on in general. If you're in search of a really strong top lane pick who gets even better for 13.18 due to this build, then look no further than Quinn. For the rune page, it's Fleet Footwork with Presence of Mind, Alacrity, and Cutdown. Optimal secondaries are Absolute Focus and Scorch. A brand new build that has been popping off over the past patch consists of rushing Spear of Shojin on Skarner. The build is being played by a ton of high elo Skarner players, and it's winning way more than every other rush option. The haste is amazing for Skarner and really amplifies his skirmish power, while the fact the health on Spear of Shojin was just increased synergizes extremely well with Skarner too. Skarner's W scales off his max health, so now that Shojin offers a whopping 500 health, it's become a much more efficient item for the champ. You also want to be grabbing Lucidity Boots to provide yourself with even more early ability haste. Now Spear of Shojin is actually the only offensive item you run with this core build, as you transition into Joksho second. After Joksho, it's Gargoyle Stone Plate to provide some really great teamfight durability. Skarner has been out of meta for quite some time now, but with this build, he's actually in a pretty underrated spot. There are 2 viable rune pages going around on Skarner right now. Conqueror is the most popular page, and you really can't go wrong with it. Phase Rush is quite strong as well though, and is going to work best into comps that have more mobility, where that added movement speed helps you stick on them better. A build that many pros have been liking in recent patches that not a lot of solo queue players have been picking up on is Crown of the Shattered Queen Talia. Talia is a champion who has really great extended fight power due to the low cooldown on her Q, but that doesn't matter if you're one shot at the start of a fight. By building Crown into more melee heavy comps with hard engage, you're able to stay alive way more consistently. For example, Korean pro Tarzan just recently played the build in solo queue when going up against Kha'Zix. Crown passive is so valuable into an assassin jungler like Ka, because as long as you don't die right away, you can throw down E and use the slow to kite around. Now if you're playing into a heavier ranged comp, the value from Crown is definitely not as high due to the enemies more easily being able to proc Crown's passive. It's a situationally very strong item on Talia though, and should definitely be picked up in games where the enemy lacks any poke. The complete 3-item core is a Crown Rush into Shadowflame second and Zanya's third. Run First Strike for the Keystone rune with Magical Footwear, Futures Market, and Cosmic Insight. Eyeball Collection and Treasure Hunter are the best secondaries. Talon is primarily played with assassin builds, but there's a bruiser setup that has made a comeback for 13.18. Due to the recent Gore Drinker buffs, it's actually Talon's highest win rate mythic item right now. Sure, the damage is slightly lower than your traditional Ghostblade rush, but the skirmish power and durability is significantly higher. You're going to rush the Gore Drinker, go into Prowler's Claw second, and then pick up Black Cleaver third. If you're playing into comps that are a bit tankier, who will be difficult to one-shot in a standard spell rotation, opting for Gore Drinker is going to work great. Don't get it twisted, Lethality Talon is still amazing into heavy squishy comps, but this bruiser build being viable just opens things up for Talon to be way more versatile. When playing this Gore Drinker build, don't take Electrocute as the Keystone rune. Instead, you should be running Conqueror. Conqueror is going to synergize very nicely because with Gore Drinker, you'll be sticking into fights longer, which in turn gives you more time to stack Conqueror. This build was very popular on Yasuo earlier in the season. Then it fell out of meta, but it's back for 13.18. Stormrazor Yasuo is going to be really good this patch with the item being buffed. Over the past few patches, Storm has been performing pretty identical stat-wise to the more popular Kraken Slayer, so Stormrazor should now overtake it on the analytical front moving forward. Watch out for the more upfront, bursty core of Stormrazor into Gale Force. The most popular Yasuo build right now has him running Kraken into Infinity Edge, which is more centered around the extended fight power. Stormrazor with Gale Force provides a more snowbally style play, as you can find picks much easier and easily outplay skill shot reliant champions. If you're playing into a comp primarily consisting of squishy champions, this Storm with Gale Force core can work amazing. Vice versa, if you're going against a beefier front line, then siding with Kraken and Infinity Edge will still be viable too. The rune page you'll want to run is Lethal Tempo with Triumph, Alacrity, and Last Stand. Grab Second Wind and Unflinching for secondaries. Pro players have been cooking up a new build for Ezreal as of recent, and it consists of running Spear of Shojin as a core item. We're not seeing this a ton in solo queue right now, but with the small sample size there is, Spear of Shojin is actually performing exceptionally well, holding the highest win rate for any third item. Of course, Spear is losing 5 AD this patch, but even then the item will remain a great situational pickup. All the ability haste is without question the main draw to the item for Ezreal, as it's a stat the champion absolutely loves. The 500 health is what's going to make it a very powerful pickup though in select spots. In games where you're playing into very heavy dive and want a bit more survivability, this is where Spear comes in. Not only will you have incredible kiting potential due to all the haste and your E being on a really short cooldown, but the health will help you survive that initial burst, so you actually have the opportunity to use that kiting strength. The complete 3-item core to try is a Trinity Force Rush into Man Immune 2nd and Spear of Shojin 3rd. Rune pages press the attack with Presence of Mind, Bloodline, and Coup de Grace. Pick up magical footwear and biscuits for secondaries. We covered the rise of lethality Caitlyn a few patches back, but there's a new adaptation to the setup that many players are sleeping on. Since a good chunk of power from lethality Caitlyn comes from the fact her ultimate can half-health squishies, running Axiom Arc as a core pickup is very valuable. After all, lethality Caitlyn is best played into very squishy team comps anyways, so the armor pen from the more popular third item being Lord Doms is not super useful. Rank 2 Caitlyn R, when you are level 11, has a base cooldown of 75 seconds. This drops to only a 54-second cooldown when you have your 3-item core of Ghostblade, the Collector, and Axiom Arc. Now it gets even shorter than 54 seconds if you actually kill a target due to the Axiom Arc passive, so you'll end up being able to spam out Caitlyn R for poke very consistently in the mid game. When playing this build, just using Caitlyn R on the enemy ADC when they try to acquire mid priority before a big dragon fight can single-handedly win your team the fight. Be sure to run the correct rune page when playing this build, as it's not lethal tempo or fleet footwork. First Strike is the best keystone rune, as it's going to allow you to collect a ton of gold throughout the game when you use your ultimate, and works great with this more pokey style of Caitlyn. As mentioned during the intro, Everfrost Pyke is being played in Korean solo queue, and it's performing extremely well. Although this build may seem super troll, we're never going to promote a setup unless there's something to back up the claim. Whether it be a pro player using the build or compelling analytics, there's always reason behind each setup we feature. In this case, the 2-item core of Everfrost into Umbral Glaive is actually winning more than the most popular Umbral into Duskblade. It's not like we're cherry picking a super small sample size either, as there's over 4,000 games of Everfrost into Umbral Glaive Pyke. So why does Everfrost Pyke actually work? Well, it all comes down to the active synergizing amazing with Pyke and allowing him to easily line up hook plays. Instead of leading with Q like you would normally do to find a catch play, you're going to lead with Everfrost, and if the root hits, you're literally guaranteed to hit Q. And if it's just the slow that lands from Everfrost, it's not the end of the world, as it just makes the ability for you to land Q a bit easier. Now, it's also a very unique rune page that goes along with this build. Instead of running Hail of Blades, you need to be taking Glacial Augment. The lockdown power from Everfrost and Glacial is absolutely incredible, and you're playing for a much more utility-based Pyke with this setup. With Even Shroud nerfed in 13.17, we're seeing a bunch of melee support shift focus over to Radiant Virtue, and one champion who's really great with it is Rel. The play rate of Virtue on Rel literally doubled due to Even Shroud being nerfed, but it's still nowhere near to overtaking Even Shroud's overall play rate. So much of Rel's power comes from her incredible teamfight presence, and by running Radiant Virtue, it just makes it that much better. The only reason you would ever build Even Shroud over Radiant Virtue was due to the damage amp it provides, but now that it's been nerfed pretty hard, there's no compelling reason to run Even Shroud. The complete 3-item cores are Radiant Virtue Rush into Knight's Vow 2nd and Zeke's 3rd. Aftershock is the keystone rune with Shield Bash, Bone Plating, and Unflinching. Pick up Hex Flash and Cosmic Insight for secondaries. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about Skill Capped. So, we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week, with over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses no one can compare. We've also sent Challenger players into ELO Hell 714 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you are serious about improving. So that's going to be all for this one, guys. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.